Now, if you're a real anime fuck freak like I am, you probably like to go digging in the shithole every now and then. Actually, that's not fair. I shouldn't call my anime list a shithole. It would be more accurate to call it a glory hole, on account of all the glorious anime you find in there. So I was going deep in the glory hole the other day when a poster caught my eye. A poster that evoked primal memories that had been hiding in my soul. Memories that every true anime fan contains within them. Look upon this image! You feel it too, right? Like I'm not crazy? When I first saw this image, I heard this song in my heart and in my mind. This is Super GALS. Or just GALS if we're talking about the manga. I'll be calling it Super GALS because I like the way it sounds. And also we're going to talk about actual GALS in this video, and I don't want any brainlets getting confused. You know, with all the Y2K revival shit going on around here, I'm surprised no one's talking about Super GALS. I mean, maybe people are talking about it, like far away from me where I can't hear it, but it really feels like this one slipped through the cracks of the Western anime community's consciousness. I'm resisting a strong urge to title this video some bullshit like the most Y2K anime ever, because that would be Platonic Chain, or the best anime you've never heard of, because that would be Kyokara Orewa. But that's a video for another time. But anyways, audience, meet Ran Kotobuki, the main character of the story. She's a 15-year-old gal who likes to hang out in the Shibuya shopping district. In fact, she has proclaimed herself the #1 gal of Shibuya, which bears with it some responsibility, as she also keeps the streets of Shibuya safe. But more often than not, she's begging people to pay for her food, and in general, causing an even greater disturbance. Her friends Aya and Miu are also gals, although it's worth noting that each of the gals is a different subgenre of gal. Over the course of 52 episodes, the girls get caught up in comedic hijinks, romantic entanglements, and general shoujo shenaniganry. To fill out the cast, we have the two most popular high school pretty boys in Shibuya, Rei and Yuya. We have the para dancing king of Machida, Tatsukichi, and we have Ran's arch nemesis, Mami Honda. It's actually really important to state that the story is set in Shibuya. I've never seen an anime care this much about its setting besides some high fantasy stuff.
Hey bro, listen, I meant to say I never seen a slice of life anime that cares this much about its setting. You get me, bro? Because like slice of life usually doesn't care about its setting like that.
Super GALS loves Shibuya, and it's in every panel of the manga and every frame of the anime. In some way, this show is a lot like a high fantasy with the amount of lore it drops on gal culture. As a matter of fact, the gal subculture has an entire wiki full of lore. Real quick, let's head to the gal wiki. I know you're excited, but please remain single file and keep your hands to yourself. Don't go touching things, or you might find yourself irreparably changed. Some of you guys might already know a ton about this, but this is all news to me. I'm learning this as I write the script, so bear with me. If you don't know, gal, or gyaru, is a Japanese subculture that started in the 90s and peaked in the 2000s. The whole deal with it is that girls would dye their hair, usually blonde, and wear a bunch of fashionable clothes and accessories like decorative nails and stuff. A bunch of stigmas were attached to gals, like the idea that they're all promiscuous and easy to get with, or that they engage in enjo kosai. More about that later. A lot of Ran and company's problems in the show come from people misunderstanding what gals are and judging them unfairly because of the way they like to present themselves. At the end of the day, that's all gal is. At minimum, it's an aesthetic, but at maximum, it's a way of life. Like how there's people out there who like to dress up in black clothes and makeup, and there's people out there who collect animal bones and make potions. Culture is a spectrum.
Hey bro, what the fuck is this nigga talking about?
There's a bunch of other stuff tangentially related to gal culture as well, like Eurobeat music and para dancing, but I'll just let that come up when it's relevant. If I had to name every single thing related to gal culture in this video, I'd kill myself right now. You may remember me saying a while ago that each of the main girls in Super GALS is a different subgenre of gal. In fact, there's probably a million different subgenres of gal. Ran specifically is a ko-gal, which is popular among high school girls. You might have seen it before. The dyed hair, the school uniform, the leg warmers, the rolled up skirts, the fake nails. But you'll notice that Ran doesn't really have a tan. This is for an interesting reason that will come up later. Miu is described by a character in the show as an ath-gal, or athletic gal, and Aya is described as a mat-gal, or mature gal. I couldn't find anything on those in the wiki, so it's probably an improvised translation, but what you gotta understand is that if you can think of a subgenre of gal, it probably exists. Off the top of the wiki, we got Hime gals, Ona gals, Tsuyume gals, Shiro gals, Roma gals, Goth gals, Agedro gals, Banba gals, Mamba gals, Yamaba gals, and 1,000 more that are mentioned only in the ancient scriptures. Think of a word, attach gal to it, and someone out there's probably done it. Before we get sucked into an infinite vortex of fandom wikis, let's go over an episode of Super GALS, just so you can get a feeling of what's going on over here. Let's go with this episode. Okay, so the episode starts off with the three main girls on a train. Main character Ran Kotobuki, identifiable by the red streak in her hair, has just bought a bikini even though it isn't even summer yet. She strong-arms her friends into coming with her to the pool on Sunday. A conflict arises, though. You see, Miyu, the blonde-haired one, who refers to herself in the third person, was already going out on a date on Sunday with her 25-year-old police officer boyfriend. The conflict is resolved instantly, however, as the 25-year-old police officer dating this 15-year-old is also Ran's older brother. So she just makes Miyu bring him along to pay for all their shit. In her excitement, Ran accidentally smacks this girl in the back of the head. The girl is none other than Mami Honda, Ran's arch nemesis, and she is very discheesed. I mentioned earlier that Ran is the self-proclaimed #1 gal of Shibuya. Mami Honda, however, is the self-proclaimed #1 gal of Ikebukuro, which is another district in Tokyo. This exchange makes it seem like the two districts are rivals of some sort.
You're not tough enough to take on gals from Bakuro. Bakuro? You mean the sticks on the north side of Tokyo with the lame-ass aquarium and the ugly owl statue? I know Bakuro, it sucks. Bitch, you so better not talk smack about Bakuro!
It's clear which district the author favors. So Ran and Mami get into a little scrap on the train. Later, the girls spot Rei and Yuya in the city. They're being photographed for a magazine entirely dedicated to handsome high school boys. Rei and Yuya are ranked #1 and #2 respectively when it comes to handsomeness, or maybe popularity, I don't really get it. They're kind of celebrities around Shibuya. Yuya has a crush on Ran, but she refuses to learn his name and only refers to him as second place. If you think this is as sad as it gets for him, I am sorry. So Ran walks up to invite them to the pool when she's interrupted by a gang of racial caricatures. She promptly deals with them by making the kind of joke you hear in an elementary school cafeteria.
You're ugly by day and invisible at night! Huh? She said we're invisible at night? Now what the hell does that mean? Oh, I see. I get it. Really? What do you get? In other words, something like this. Whoa, check it out, we're invisible! Wow, that's interesting. Hey, wait a sec! Why are we so impressed?
After that, she invites Rei in second place to the pool. Shit, now I'm saying it too. Oh, and then this funny interaction happens.
You know I'm pretty graceful in the water. Just promise me you're gonna drown.
At the Kotobuki household, we engage in some fun, playful child abuse. Ran comes from a family of police officers who keep trying to coerce her into being a cop. Lucky for us, however, Ran is based and refuses every single time, except for this episode where she gets mind-wiped. Or this episode where her father pays her the equivalent of $5 to cop around Shibuya. And that's Ran's little sister Saya. I didn't mention her earlier because, I didn't feel like it. Fast forward. It's Sunday. The gang is at the pool. They play some games and have some fun. Second place continues to go ignored by his love. He has intense fantasies where he proves himself to Ran, and she finally starts using his real name and accepts his love. His fantasies are far from reality. Aya, that's this girl if you don't remember, has a massive crush on Rei. She gives him some cookies, which he reluctantly accepts. You might not notice it now, but this guy straight up belongs in a different show. Hey, check this out. Second place is trying to covertly sexually assault Ran while she's asleep. We don't tolerate that around here. You might be second place in the magazines, but you're second to last place in my ranking of the main characters. After some more fun times are had, we're back in Shibuya, where all the residents have been eating shit the entire day at the hands of some dastardly villain from Ikebukuro. That rings a bell. As it turns out, the Bukuro girl terrorizing Shibuya is revealed to be Mami Honda. We actually find out earlier on in the episode, but I withheld that detail for the sake of suspense. Right now, Honda is with Ran's little sister Sayo. Sayo and her boyfriend are a detective team who go around Shibuya being junior cops. The state's indoctrination knows no bounds. This is their theme song. Cute little song, isn't it? It's stuck in my head. Now listen to the song in the English dub.
Shadows creep towards the city as the sun sets. Shadows, shadows, shadows. Pickpocketing, stealing, thieving.
Yeah. Well, Sayo threatens to get Honda arrested for loitering. This is one of those moments where I wonder if Christopher Dorner maybe had a Finally, Ran shows up in the nick of time to do battle with the evil Honda. Victorious, she banishes her arch-rival back to the Bukuro realm. Episode end. Now you kinda get the general feeling that each Super Gals episode goes for. The conflict is introduced, we get a bunch of unrelated gags, the conflict reaches a climax, at which point Ran usually uses her superhuman athletic ability to solve the problem, and then we all laugh at the end. Of course, some episodes deviate pretty severely, but this is like the most standard episode I could pick to just show you how things work around here. One thing you might have noticed already is the way the anime looks. Animation-wise, it's nothing special, but the character designs have a lot of personality, and every character's wardrobe is deep as hell. The manga wardrobe is even deeper still, with Fuji-sensei giving the girls a new outfit every single chapter.
Hey, bro, I don't even know why I started calling her Fuji Sensei. Just like it came through in the script, and then I read it, and I didn't really notice it, and then I'm listening to it back, and I'm noticing. I don't know why it is like that, bro. I'm my bad.
It's a shame we didn't get to see some of these in the anime, but the number of outfits they managed to fit in the show is admirable already. You can't expect a new outfit every single episode unless you're willing to give the animators as much time as they need, at the expense of executive profits, which is a preposterous idea, because executives getting their bonuses is what makes the world go around. The manga differs from the anime in more than just wardrobe, however. There's some anime-only characters that I'll get into later. There's the random posters for random shit that Fuji-sensei will choose to put in the corner of a page, maybe in reference to something. I don't really fucking know, it never makes any sense to me. But that's not even the biggest thing. You've heard of author's notes, but have you heard of author's panels? I return to inform you guys that this is actually a common thing in shoujo manga. I started reading Marmalade Boy and a few other shoujo, and when I asked around, it turns out that this is like a thing in all of them, or at least in all the ones published by Ribbon. It's crazy how I called myself a weeb and I didn't even know this. Still, I love Fuji-sensei's author's notes way more than I love any of the others I've read. Here's Fuji-sensei talking about her wig collection. Here's her talking about her nail collection. Here's her talking about her sandal collection. Here's her talking about befriending renowned Japanese musician Sayaka Ichi. Here's her talking about it some more. And here's Sayaka Ichi herself writing a note at the end of Volume 1. Here's her talking about more of her wigs. Here's her talking about how cold the November of 1999 is. Here's a visual assault of words too pixelated for me to read. She likes to give freshman gals advice on how to gal, I guess. Here's her talking about her fall accessory collection. Here's a Neo Geo World appearance. Off topic, but I felt like here's her showing off her office layout. Her mom helps her out with her manga. Here's her giving a literal tutorial on how to do your nails. Here's her discussing her approach. Here's her admitting that she forgets to put in talking about wearing platforms. And here, the manga got an English release from CMX, but Volume 1 is going for $27 on Amazon. How much is Volume 2 going for?
Please, no, please, no, what?
The prices actually fluctuate depending on the seller's mood, so unless you want to blow a decade's worth of your DistroKid check on a single volume of manga, you'll have to read a 120p scanlation that uses impact font, which I think adds a little flavor, but some may disagree. Now let's get into the funny stuff. Wait, what's that? You're saying I gotta unpack the baggage first? Now normally I would say let's address the elephant in the room, but there's a lot of fucking elephants in here. This is a studio apartment, so we're gonna have to ruthlessly slaughter each and every one of these elephants. Let's start with this one. What? This 15-year-old high school girl is dating this 25-year-old police officer, who just happens to be Ron's older brother, by the way. It seems to be a trend in shoujo manga to have girls in romances with guys that are significantly older than them. Sailor Moon has something like that, Marmalade Boy has it a little bit, Gachanpa? Wait, no, that's Josei. Koi wa ame agari? Wait, what? Seinen? Let me check this blog post real quick, and Takane and Hana, 26 and 16. Jesus! The author of the blog post analyzes why some shoujo manga tend to have such problematic age gaps and why people don't care as much in this demographic specifically. Some of the reasons they list are stuff like the fact that the older man tends not to act like an older man, and the fact that he doesn't actually pursue the younger girl because she falls in love with him first, and that they tend not to ever get super physical or sexual. All that stuff is true about Miyu and the 25-year-old cop. Until they kiss and start living together, of course. Ron jokingly calls her brother a pedophile in the manga, and we do see scenes of him coming to his senses, so it's obviously acknowledged within the universe that this is severely wrong, but maybe the taboo nature plays a role in why it's so popular. My take on this? I don't need to explain to you why this kind of relationship is a complete disaster, but at the same time I know that fiction is a place for people to enact certain fantasies, and who am I to deny someone the right to experience that? But maybe that's the problem. Does shoujo manga normalize these perverted relationships in real life? I don't know. For that, you must ask a sociologist, I think. You cannot be coming to my videos expecting some nuanced take on the matter. Okay, next elephant.
No!
Now, I mentioned offhandedly the racist caricature trio in the show. One thing to note about these girls is that that's not their actual skin color. This is just a fake tan. The style is called ganguro, and it's another subgenre of gal, a subgenre to the subculture. A sub-subculture, if you will. At first, it kind of freaked me out, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think it's inherently bad. According to the Gal Wiki, Ganguro is speculated to have emerged from a desire to rebel against the restrictive aspects of traditional Japanese society. If I permit myself to speculate, one of those restrictive aspects would be the emphasis on lighter skin correlating with beauty. That's something a lot of cultures have, including my own, and I can see why people would want to rebel against the pressure to stay pale by getting extra tanned. It just proves the point because people who engage in the Ganguro style are subject to a bunch of stereotypes and misconceptions, like the idea that they're all stinky and easy to fuck. Also, a cool thing I learned is that Ganguro ended up having subcultures derived from it, like Yamanba. That would make it a sub-sub-subculture. And then, and this is all according to the wiki by the way, Yamanba birthed Manba, and from Manba grew Banba, which would make that a subculture. Now, back to the caricature gals. They have fake tan on because they're Ganguro gals. This, I am currently convinced, is not in and of itself
Problématique.
What's fucked up, however, is the lips. Just because the girls aren't black doesn't mean the anti-black imagery used to mock them is okay. You got a classic two-pronged attack here. The first attack, which is not as bad but still just kinda mean, is viciously mocking Ganguro gals for the way they like to present themselves, which is hypocritical because whenever anyone criticizes the way the main girls present themselves, it's always viewed as a dick move. It's also weird because while in the anime, Ran constantly makes fun of the caricature gals for being tanned, in the manga, Ran actively seeks a tan, and I think she looks pretty good with it. Perhaps anime Ran is just a tad more racist than manga Ran. The other side of the two-pronged attack is a bit harder to deal with. The anti-black imagery. Now, as a black gentleman myself, this is kinda bothersome. I don't like seeing the blackface lips on every dark-skinned character in every manga made pre-2000. I tolerate Mr. Popo in Dragon Ball because Dragon Ball is a masterwork of godly proportions, and Mr. Popo is in like 1% of the story. These bitches are in every episode! They are impossible to avoid. I enjoy my Looney Tunes and my Tom and Jerry, and on occasion I am forced to tolerate what goes on there. So perhaps it's only fair to extend the same charitability to this work. Racial awareness in Japan in the 90s is like the same as it was in America in the 50s, I guess, so I can only be so harsh. The only saving grace here is that these girls have white lips on account of the Ganguro makeup, rather than the deep minstrel red. This is, however, where I can totally see someone turning this shit off. I personally cannot stop laughing whenever these girls show up on my screen. I just have a terrible habit of laughing uncontrollably every time something offensive happens. I am not the guy to talk to about solutions. And maybe I increased my offense-taking threshold by watching Vampire Girl vs. Frankenstein Girl, which contained the first and only depiction of blackface that genuinely upset me. Seriously, this shit is so offensive it almost brought tears to my eyes. I was actually nauseous. In comparison, the caricature trio is like a mosquito bite. And I don't want to sit here and claim that the author Mihona Fuji is an inherently racist person. I think she's just a victim of the casual prejudices that Japan inherited from the West when they consumed our art without critically thinking about any of it. To her, it was harmless. I highly doubt she knew that someone like me would somehow become obsessed with this thing she created, halfway across the world and about 25 years after the fact. So I'm not gonna shit on her too hard. Wait, what happens in episode 29? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, I don't want to talk about that. Nuh-uh. Move on. Alright, where's the other elephant? Holy fuck, I forgot to talk about Tatsukichi. He shows up a few episodes after the one we just went over and pretty much becomes a mainstay in the cast. I love him. He's literally just like me. He loves to dance. And you may have noticed, he's a little bit darker skinned than everyone else. That's not a fake tan. He just came out that way. His last name is Kuroi, which means black. Now, I'm not saying he's of African descent. He's probably just one of those Japanese folks with darker skin. But you never know. You might be wondering what the problem here is. Any black folks watching will already have a bad feeling in their stomach. Tatsukichi is a monkey. This was the part that I felt most confused by. The problem for me is mainly with the idea that black people are unwelcome in this world that Fuji has created. If I were here, would I too be a monkey? If Fuji-sensei drew me or any of my friends, would we have the blackface lips? Maybe that's an unfair question to ask in the first place. I also feel a little guilty because I actually love Tatsukichi despite all this. Monkeys are my favorite animal. Well, primates in general. I love watching documentaries on baboons, howlers, gibbons, orangutans, and especially chimpanzees and bonobos. Did you know that Old World monkeys in Africa have limp tails, primarily used only for balance, while New World monkeys in South Africa,
I meant South America,
have prehensile tails that are very strong and dexterous. Saiyans are likely more related to New World monkeys in this way. All I'm saying is, if I was a Saiyan, I wouldn't let nobody cut off my tail. That's the best part of being a Saiyan. Maybe I should have left this as a side note. Too late now, so I don't really know how to feel here. Tatsukichi, like Ran, is impulsive, a bit stupid, and lacks self-control. The only difference between them, aside from gender, is skin color. Why then is Ran not a monkey? She would make for a great monkey. And Miyu too. She literally refers to herself in the third person, which isn't as weird in Japanese, but it sounds stupid as fuck in the English dub. Someone more informed than me should really unpack this kind of stuff. I say personally that Tatsukichi's monkeyness shouldn't be removed, but rather the monkeyness should be spread around. You might have noticed, I'm being very charitable to super gals here. I don't have to be, but somehow this story wormed its way into my heart despite all the problematic and otherwise dogshit storytelling. Maybe it's because of all that. I don't know. I have a weird love for offensive things, provided they're not too offensive. Still, you should finish watching the video. I have a lot more to say, and you will be entertained. Now, let's get into the fun. Also, I want to note that the only way to find the show online is in 480p with only the first half English dubbed. My guess is SuperGals didn't generate enough interest to convince anyone to bring back the English dub for the second half. And I'm also guessing it never got re-released with updated quality. I think the only way to buy it is as a DVD. No Blu-rays were ever released. You can watch it all for free on YouTube though. Yeah, Nozomi Entertainment, which seems to be related to Right Stuff Anime, which was recently, unfortunately, acquired by Crunchyroll, has all 52 episodes of SuperGals for free on YouTube as of writing the script. But watch it after you're done with this video. Now, what's next on the agenda? What? Okay, after looking through my notes, I can confirm that this is technically true. Most of the characters are in a very specific brand of shoujo hell. When I say hell, I mean just unusually cruel punishment that repeats itself constantly throughout the story. Keep in mind, this is all just me reading way too much into what are essentially just comedic interactions. I don't think anyone benefits from watching this with too serious of a lens, but I couldn't avoid doing this. All except the last one on this list. That one is just real never-ending hell. Let's start with the lowest tier of suffering and gradually make our way up the pain ladder. Tatsukichi introduces himself in episode 10, when Ran is teaching a bunch of middle school girls how to do a para dance. If you're wondering what para is, consider it the original TikTok dance. In para, moves are choreographed specifically for each song, and mostly just use your hands. It's popular in gal circles, but it's one of those things that only some gals were really into. I think the goal of para is to go really fast, because the music is also supposed to be really fast. Usually it's some Eurobeat type music. In Super Gals, pretty much all the para is done to this song you hear in the background. Almost every transition screen is to this song as well. So Tatsukichi pulls up and tells Ran that her moves are dog shit, and he shows her how it's really done. And then he says, you know what, I'm just gonna let the scene play out.
Hey, you're not so bad. Maybe I'll take you on as my student.
Don't you mean you want to be my student? That is, if you think you can keep up with me, monkey boy.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better for him. But that's not the reason Tatsukichi is in hell. For that, let's fast forward a bit. Here, he asks Ran to be his girlfriend, and she accepts. Sounds good, right? Wrong! Ran is the last person you want as your girlfriend. Cue the next episode. Ran, while still being Tatsukichi's girlfriend, mind you, holds a contest where the winner gets to be her new boyfriend. The contestants? Every single man in Shibuya! When Ran says she's the #1 gal in this district, she's not fucking playing around. At the end of the contest, Tatsuki and second place are tied for the lead, and Ran leaves without choosing either of them, while directly saying that she really would have dated whoever won that ridiculous contest. And Tatsukichi remains Ran's boyfriend on a technicality. In this episode, again, while still technically being Tatsukichi's girlfriend, Ran entertains the idea of going out with a guy she finds attractive. She flirts with him until he reveals that he has a girlfriend too. Then she stops caring. Just a few episodes later, we see Ran on the lookout for quote-unquote GL guys, or ikemen.
Hey, he's pretty GL. Well, the truth is, I actually wanted Ryo to hot it.
No, she has yet to break up with Tatsukichi. Then, after like 20 episodes of being together, Tatsukichi reveals that Ran has never once even said that she likes him. It's clear that Ran has some shoujo-induced communication issues though. She relents by telling him that he is, quote-unquote, A-okay. In all fairness, she did hand-knit him a scarf for Christmas Eve, so you can't really take away— oh, she's confusing him for a monkey now. Towards the end, though, Ran is shown to have a measure of attachment and loyalty to Tatsukichi, which is very heartwarming given Ran's entire personality, as well as the show going out of its way to make it seem like Ran is gonna get together with Rei. You see, the thing about Ran is that, though she does display an attraction to boys, she doesn't really pursue them at all. She has a kind of aromantic personality. I'm not gonna say she's completely aromantic because she does stick around with Tatsukichi, but she does have a kind of aromantic personality in the sense that her individuality and her principles always come first. This was actually something widely discussed among fans while Super Gals was still being serialized. Fuji-sensei herself says, in a machine-translated interview, so take this with a grain of salt, that Ran is a man-like character who has a coolness that makes girls go numb. The implication seems to be that it wouldn't make sense for a character like Ran to lose all her faculties in a romantic stupor. Her story isn't about romance. It looks like some readers even complained about Ran ending up in a relationship at all. The editor for the Super Gals manga said that the main interest of the readers wasn't even the romance, and that this was maybe the first time he edited a shoujo manga where the first male and female characters weren't right for each other. In a way, Tatsukichi is demonstrated to be the perfect man for her, because he makes her laugh way more than anyone else. So even though he's broke and an idiot, he's a good person and an enthusiastic, lively guy, which matters more to Ran than what she says matters to her, that being looks and money. So really, Tatsukichi's hell only lasts for a little while, until the relationship really gets going. And I won't spoil the Super Gals sequel manga that came out 20 years later. We'll just have to wait for that to get translated. Well, you guys sure are taking your time, so in the meanwhile, let's move on to a higher level of cuckoldery. Okay, this guy basically chases Ran for the entire show despite her never even learning his name. Even when she starts dating Tatsukichi, some people might call his efforts Sisyphean. I am not one of those people. I don't know what that word means. I just think this guy's pathetic, and author Mihona Fuji is determined to make his life a living hell. After about 10 episodes worth of crushing on Ran and being unable to confess his feelings, Tatsukichi comes in and on the first day of meeting her, becomes her boyfriend. Honestly, this just shows the qualities that Ran values in a significant other, proving that second place really was never meant to be with her. But his special hell comes from his inability to move on. He challenges Tatsukichi to a bunch of contests for Ran's heart. He challenges him to bowling. He fails. He challenges him to snowboarding, a sport he specializes in. He still eats shit. He starts the whole Grand Prix episode where the entirety of Shibuya competes to be Ran's boyfriend. He technically won joint first place. According to the rules, he should at least be entitled to 1/3 of a polyamorous relationship including both Ran and Tatsukichi. But nah, here's second place buying Ran a parfait and doing her homework for her. Fellas, this is textbook shit. But he doesn't end up alone forever. No one here does. You see, in episode 29, we get a scene where Mami Honda is beating up on some dirty dog who's been cheating on her. Then, after a quick conversation with second place, she falls head over heels. By the end of the episode, she declares herself his girlfriend. And just as second place is unable to confess his feelings for Ran, he is also unable to confess his lack of feelings for Honda. So many of the jokes in this show are at second place's expense, maybe even more than the Tatsukichi jokes. I mean, we know Tatsukichi doesn't mind getting smacked around a little bit, but second place's pining for Ran just straight up hurts to watch sometimes. Speaking of Mami Honda, Mami Honda is a massively rich girl from Ikebukuro, and we mostly see her competing with Ran. There are times when she's a complete and total bitch, like when she uses a taser to attack Ran, or when she hires two guys to compete in the Ran Grand Prix and cheat so they embarrass Ran when they win. Typical rich person behavior. There are many such cases. The idea is that we're supposed to cheer for Ran over her, and mostly you will, but there's some points where the story feels needlessly cruel to Honda, like when basically every single one of her boyfriends cheats on her, sometimes to pursue Ran. Whenever a guy realizes she won't hand out pussy like a flyer, he cheats on her. This is all part of the broader problem with guys making presumptions about gals, and even the boy she ends up keeping for the majority of the show is more interested in Ran than he is in her. To show how little he cares about her, one time he got her a $3 hair extension as a gift that turned out to be another guy's mustache. You gotta have sympathy for a girl who has to basically kidnap her boyfriend anytime she wants to go out on a date. In everything, Mami is second place to Ran. There's things she's been practicing for her entire life, like table tennis, real tennis, watermelon smashing, and yet she fails in all endeavors to Ran kotobuki. Imagine trying all your life to be exceptional, only to end up second place no matter what. A second place girl for a second place guy. Eventually, Ran and Mami become best frenemies, but still, you cannot wash this away. All girls are ranked below Ran kotobuki, and even her friends are not immune. Like I said before, gals tend to get a bad rap in Japan, with people usually seeing them as more promiscuous and quote-unquote easy. This is a recurring issue for most of the girls in the show. A guy will start hitting on one of them and his intentions are clear, sometimes even forceful. Ran has an easy enough time disposing of these guys, but this kind of stuff seems to really affect Honda in a way that makes me feel very bad for her. But it all works out in the end, and her pain does not even come close to what we're about to see next.
Fucking Tokyo Mew Mew character, I think. Fucking Mami Honda is the relationship of Kotobuki Ran. She wearing purple bikini swimsuit and body inflate like a balloon. With the help of her Mami Honda, she can inflate like a balloon and fly a short distance. Mami Honda deflate and fly away like a balloon and shrink size out of air. What the fuck is going on here, bruh? What is good with this fucking thing? What's going on here, bro? Wait, is she getting fucking inflated with a goddamn pressurizer, nigga? What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is Johnny Test doing here, bro? What is this fucking wiki, bro? What the fuck is going on? There's something you need to know.
Okay, now to the part that made me want to talk about this show. The first time we meet Ray, he and Ran have what is essentially the typical meet cute. Ran sees a picture of Ray in a magazine and says he's not her type at all. And then, the first time they meet, it's like this. It really feels like the show is building up to a story about Ran and Ray getting past each other's differences and developing a romance. Then Ran ends up with Tatsukichi, and Ray spends the rest of the show either alone or quote-unquote dating Aya. Aya, as we have established earlier, has a massive crush on Ray. He's her first love. It's a very pure shoujo romance. You could make a whole ass series by making Aya the main character instead of Ran. Aya is precisely the kind of girl who loses all her faculties when she falls for a guy. She keeps coming on to Ray and he keeps responding like this.
Hello there, Ray.
Hey.
Well, good luck to us both.
Oh yeah, sure.
I guess I want this one.
You're gonna buy that?
Yes.
Do you have a record player?
No, I don't, but
Then what's the point?
But you gotta understand, he just doesn't know. He's unaware of her feelings.
About Aya, about how you feel about her. You know that she's liked you for a while now, right?
Yeah. So, what about it?
Okay, so maybe he just doesn't like her. When she finally asks him out, he says this.
Trying to say, I wanted to tell you.
Aya, if I made you my girlfriend, or if I tried to kiss you right now, that would be easy. Except for one thing. First love. That's too heavy for me. I'm not as nice as you think. You would end up getting hurt. I'm not good at commitment. I'm not good at relationships. You know what? I'm not good, period.
That's some seriously heavy shit for a high school freshman, but she doesn't give up. Ron and the rest of the gang keep egging her on. There's this mentality in a lot of romance stories, not just from Japan, to not give up on someone if your feelings aren't reciprocated, as if it's some kind of game where you can grind up experience points to finally win them. Let me just tell you right now, don't fall for the lie. Rather than encouraging Aya to move on, Ron keeps getting on Rei's case to chase after her, even after he has repeatedly shown that he gives no fucks about her. In case it wasn't obvious by the footage, there is no humor in the interactions between Rei and Aya. You could easily see an angle for comedy if Ron and Miyu would just recognize how useless it all is, but instead, it's played for drama, and that makes it funnier. To me, the pain and anguish is funny to me. Maybe Aya would be able to move on if she had better influences in her life. I'm looking at you two, but she can't. It's to the point where she gets happy from shit like this.
Otohata told me that. Yeah? He said he didn't. Well, he said that he didn't not like me. Yeah, and then? And then nothing. That was it.
And then, towards the end of episode 22, we have this scene, in which Aya and Rei kinda officially start dating. However, do not be fooled. There is no romance. You will only feel incredibly sorry for both of them. It feels like Rei is only doing this out of some sense of obligation, and while he does have some scenes where he shows his tender side, they don't last as long. And they're far outnumbered by the scenes of him just not wanting to be here. To my knowledge, Rei doesn't dance in any of the transition screens. He doesn't really partake in any of the jokes. He doesn't even seem to like his best friend that much. It's like he was transported from a different anime. Maybe he'd fit better in something like Cited Inayo, or some other humorless show. I sound like I hate him right now, but I genuinely love this guy so much. He is the straight man to end all straight men.
無理して俺に合わすのやめれば。お前、自分ってものがないわけ？俺の顔色を伺ったり、kotobukiの言うことにうなずいたり、自分で答えを見つけられないわけ。
私、
そういうの俺的に結構うざい。
Wow, he totally owned that liberal. But like, on some real shit, Rei was spitting here. It's her so-called friends that keep steering her down the wrong path. In a way, this scene is just Mihuna Fuji criticizing her own character writing, after which the writing stays exactly the same. So Aya continues pining for Rei and... Wait just 1 second. Computer, enhance.
How do I do that?
Computer, identify life form.
Okay, wait, I figured it out. Me. Target has been identified as Karase Kazuki, potential love interest for Aya.
Let's compare Kazuki's stats to Rei's. They're both tall, handsome, and get good grades. But look! Kazuki is actively interested in Aya. Aya has finally found her soulmate. Look, they're already studying together. It's a new beginning for Aya. Fuji-sensei realized she fucked up with Rei and is finally giving her the man she deserves.
へえ、あいつ男ができたのか。
俺、それでいいのかよ。
あいつがそうしたいっつんならいいんじゃねえの？
何？聞き捨てならねえその発言。
俺も束縛されないで済むし。
ねえ、束縛ってどういう意味？綾が音畑君を束縛したことなんて一度もないと思うんだけど、いつだって音畑君の重荷にならないよう言いたいことも我慢してきたんだよ。
だからそれが分かるから重荷なんだって。じゃあバイバイ。
Jesus, dude, like what the fuck, bro? He actually hates her. Like he actually hates her. But it's fine. She has a new man, and he's treating her right. Oh, that? Don't worry. That's just Kazuki confronting Rei about his mistreatment of Aya. Rei ends up calling Aya too, but don't worry, Kazuki's on it. He took her phone while she wasn't looking and deleted Rei's call so that Aya would never know. That way, she can focus on her studies. We should all hope to have significant others this invested in our futures. And then, Kazuki proclaims his love in the least creepy way possible. In fact, he loves her so much he starts giving her fashion advice, like telling her not to wear the friendship necklace she got with Ron and Miyu. What a catch, looking out for her image. And then he tells her to stop hanging out with her friends because they're all corrupting influences. Ron, Miyu, Tatsukichi, the pedophile police officer, all of them. But it appears that this was the last straw for Aya. She leaves him. Then Kazuki is found stealing the answers to a test and... Wait, was this guy a creep the entire time? Darn it! It seems I mistook all the red flags for green flags. Turns out I am colorblind. Now, if only I can use that defense in this discrimination case. And then, Rei calls Aya again. Aya passes the phone to Ron because she's too much of a pussy to talk to him. And Ron talks to Rei while romantic guitar plays in the background. Wait, what the fuck is happening? Okay, technically the music starts before he calls Aya, but I don't know, man. To me, it really feels like the audio-visual language here is trying to convey a romantic future for Ron and Rei. But that might just be my media illiteracy talking.
何のことが好きなんで
しょ。
なんでそんなこと聞くわけ？
隠さないでよ。隠される方が辛い。心がざわついたままでいるのは嫌なの。どうせならはっきり言ってくれた方が。
ああ、好きだよ。これですっきりしたか。俺が寿を好きだって認めれば気が済むんだろう。なぜそうやってお前は俺に辛そうな目を向ける？聞いたのはお前だぞ。全部俺のせいにするのか。自分で可能性切り捨てんのあんま良くないと思うけど。
Yeah, you know what? I think I'll let you guys watch how this plays out on your own. The last few episodes get weird and cruel in a way that I think you need to watch to enjoy. But you can see now how Aya is in the deepest hell of all, and the reason, whether she knows it or not, is her best friend, Kotobuki Ran. Aside from the racism and the pedophilia, the main structural problem with the show is that, first and foremost, it is about Kotobuki Ran. The manga is just called GALS, but the anime is called Super GALS, Kotobuki Ran. She is the queen, and Shibuya, or really the entire universe, is her domain. The series cosmically bends over backwards to make Ran shine, even when she doesn't need it. I called it a problem, only because it comes at the expense of basically every other character's storyline. And the thing is, I think the show's funnier because of it. Like, it's not really a problem to me at all. Here's the thing, Ran's happiness, and not only her happiness, but her status for some odd reason, depends on the misery of damn near everyone else. Every guy must be not only head over heels for her, but also someone else's boyfriend or crush at the same time. I'm gonna keep it a stack with you. If the 25-year-old police officer wasn't already Ran's brother, I don't think he'd be with Miyu. It's a good thing he has enough restraint not to delve into incest. Even though I said the characters were all in hell, it actually seems that they're getting along just fine in this Kotobuki Ran world. All things considered, it seems like a pleasant place. Keep in mind as well that I didn't even get into half of the crazy-ass donkey dick bullshit that happens in this show, so you still have a lot to discover by yourself. Bro, what the fuck is this $100 bandana? Is this like official merch or something? If I were more thorough, I would have purchased some of the merch. I wanted to see if there was a collection of Super GALS Furoku, but that's beyond my current abilities. Dude, okay, my only source for this is Anime News Network, but apparently renowned hentai animation studio T-Rex did the key animation on episode 36. That means the studio that gave us such classics as Bullied, Revenge Hypnosis, Voluptuous Family Hypnosis, Busty Elf Mother-Daughter Hypnosis, Busty Princess Hypnosis, Hypnosis Sex Guidance, Class Rep Hypnosis. Bro, the episode looks like shit. It's technically a— Bro, hold up, what the fuck was I smoking? This episode actually looks way better than most of the episodes in the show. I was fucking tripping ball. I must have been thinking of something else. My bad, y'all. I'm sorry for misleading you. It's technically a filler episode, but filler doesn't really mean much in this show. It feels exactly like most of the other episodes. It actually features an anime-only character in Maki Komine, a country girl who wants to be Ran's gal disciple. There's other anime-only characters out there like Toa Himejima, a woman who, in this universe, was one of the very first gals of Shibuya, and who was the Shibuya #1 gal before she passed the title on to Ran. I actually quite like this gal lore. It's canon to me, goddammit. Two other anime-only quote-unquote characters are Mini Gal Tan and Mini Gal White. That's what they're called on Wikipedia. They're these two chibi gals who show up to give the audience info about gal slang and whatnot. Honestly, I don't even know if half the shit they say is true, but it is funny in English.
Carrie! Carried is gal speak for carried away. Every gal knows that.
He's income cooler than those teen idols.
Income means incomparably. That's common gal knowledge. She was dressed all mat gal. Wild, huh? It's a well-known gal fact. Mat gal means mature gal.
My favorite anime-only character, however, is Kasumi Tsukino, who wants to surpass Ran as the Shibuya #1 gal. She's involved in a lot of the funny hijinks in the latter half of the show, and as far as gal lore goes, a potential rivalry between her and Maki Komine would be one for the ages. One thing about stories set in Shibuya is that they gotta have their 109 and Hachiko cameos. Hachiko the dog is this statue in Shibuya that has a sad backstory or whatever. Shibuya 109 is hugely popular for gals. Even the wiki has 109 in its URL. It was, and probably still is, the spot to be for gals. They usually change the name in the stories though for like copyright reasons, but it's not always consistent. Like in the Super GALS anime, it's called 10Q, Q being the way you say the number 9 in Japanese. But it's still 109 in the manga. I don't really understand it at all. Apparently, and this is according to the Gal Wiki, because once again, I can't read kanji. Stop telling me to read kanji. I can't. Stop sending me messages in kanji, and it's very embarrassing for me and my whole family. Mami Honda eventually becomes the head manager of a Cecil McBee store in Shibuya 109, and Cecil McBee and Super GALS ended up collaborating on a clothing release, which, if you ask this fashion expert, looks pretty tight. Super GALS had 3 separate games released. Can you believe that shit? 2 Game Boy Color games and a PS1 game. The Game Boy games seem to be puzzle games, while the PS1 game seems to be a party game. I say seems to be because, once again, And I don't know how to keep reiterating this to you people, I don't know how to read fucking kanji. And due to the lack of popularity of Super Gals in the West, I have no hope for any translations. No hope at all. It's crazy how not a single person watching this will ever be prompted to translate these games. Not one of you. I'm not judging. I'm just stating the facts. The PS1 game also has this amazing song that PS1 file grabbers can't get a hold of for some reason. I can also confirm that the PS1 game features Shibuya 109 as well as Hachiko the dog, so for anyone wanting to be safe before they make their purchase, Seeing as I can't read the Super Gals sequel, let's go ahead and read the next best thing. Fanfiction. Yeah, I was surprised to see this story represented in Western fanfiction as well, but the fanbase is still going strong. There's stuff that's been written as recently as last year. Now let's see. Which one do we want to read? This one's a romance between one of the least utilized side characters in the show and an original character. That's how dedicated these fans are. Fanfiction about obscure side characters will always be my favorite, and I really hope fans of Satsuki Ida eat well after reading this. This reminds me of the days when I used to write Dragon Ball fanfiction about Zarbon and Jace and Bardock's crew and shit. My favorite fanfic I ever wrote was probably about Snow and Android 8. Man, I miss those days. This one is a Ron X Ray fanfiction, but it says Chapter 1 and it hasn't been updated since it was published in 2020. Ray is so fucking horny in this one. In the canon of this world, Ron and Ray actually fuck, and Ron moves on while Ray is unable to get over her. Ron and Ray are easily shippable if you're looking to make a melodramatic romance. It honestly writes itself. This here is a 60,000 word fanfiction updated just last year about Super Gals set in feudal era Japan. There is so much lore in this one. Aya is a princess in a village that holds a precious metal that can be found nowhere else in Japan. Miyu is, I think, her handmaiden or something, and Ron is a priestess from a family of priests. Wait, the author, Screaming Siapow, is perhaps the most prolific Super Gals fanfiction writer in the entire world. 59,000, 3,000, 2,000, 42,000, 15,000, 5,000, 56,000, 30,000, 21,000. 79,000 words for the Ouran High School Host Club crossover. I can't even begin to describe how genuinely heartwarmed I am that there are people out there who care enough about Super Gals to write over 200,000 words about it. I don't think I have it in me to read all of that, but I can only pray that this video pushes people to read and perhaps even write Super Gals fanfiction. According to this dubiously machine-translated interview, Mihona Fuji remembers Shibuya in the 90s as kind of a piece of shit. I don't want to get into a socioeconomic analysis of the lost decade, but there's a lot of media out there that depicts Shibuya as a vile ring of hell. There were gangs, there was a lot of gambling and prostitution, and it was dirty as fuck. Fuji-sensei says, machine-translatedly, ko-gals were just being there, and adults would point their fingers at them and say, wow, there's another dirty one here. The city wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. There was a stereotype like, if you go there, you'll find bad guys, and among them are ko-gals. But I thought I wouldn't know until I actually went there, so I went to Shibuya to watch it. When Fuji studied the ko-gals, she discovered that they were actually having fun, and judging by this fan-translated author panel, she thought they looked pretty cool. It seems like Fuji-sensei had some pretty noble goals with this story. She wanted to make a manga for gals, but also for people to see what gals were really about. The effects were real because gals still value the manga to this day, and even gals who haven't read it at least know of it. On one hand, it's sad that any kind of rebelliousness or individuality has to be conducted through capitalism. The instant some kind of countercultural movement happens, corporations race to squeeze whatever money they can out of it. I don't know to what extent this is the case for the gal subculture. A lot of it is inherently rooted in consumption and buying things and being trendy, which is easily exploitable. But at the same time, I must admit, I do think it looks cool. And it's great that there's people out there that feel seen by this subculture. The question is whether or not the gal subculture is inextricable from capitalism or not. The biggest cultural landmark for gals is a shopping mall. There were so many gal magazines made just to sell shit to gals. Shit, the main trio of super gals almost work better as mannequins for selling clothes than they do as actual characters.
Just in order to be completely fair to Gyaru as well, like this is a case with every subculture and every culture really that exists in this capitalist world. Corporations are going to try to profit off of it, whether it's gaming, whether you're into anime, movies. Corporations are going to find a way to profit off of the thing you're interested in. This isn't just something inherent to Gyaru. And I didn't touch on it as much, but like there's a big DIY aspect to Gyaru culture of women, you know, teaching other women how to like, and girls teaching other girls how to, and not just people, I should say like there's guys and non-binary people involved with Gyaru as well. It's a very like free, expressive culture, and a lot of Gyaru culture is about teaching other people how to do the thing with tutorials and stuff. And it's just because this kind of culture is foreign to me. Like I'm not as well versed in a culture that is about buying clothes and makeup and stuff and looking, you know, like in a certain, you know, way. It feels to me like an inherent aspect of Gyaru is the consumption of products created by corporations in a way that maybe other cultures are not. But that might be unfair for me as well, because off the top of my head right now, as I'm recording this, I can't really think of anything that is inherent to Gyaru culture where it's like it's about the consumption, you know. Like, the clothes you wear are art as well. You're wearing the art that other people have made. And you know, I could say, oh, but like people buy games, but like people torrent games as well. People emulate games. And I don't morally judge them for that. Then like people can steal clothes and makeup too, you know? Like people get, you know, like, so I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, Gyaru's all just about like being a corporate thing. Like, I don't want that to be the takeaway here.
But I have to believe there's a future where people can live their own life in their own style without corporations perverting it for profit. I have to believe that a simpler world is possible. A world like the Shibuya of Super Gals, where even characters that belong in other stories have a place. I'm convinced that if you took a character from any other story and put them here, they would find a place to call home. Because Shibuya is for everybody. Wow, that sounds like a tourism slogan. Also, Fuji admittedly reads more philosophy and classic novels than manga. What this means is that Super Gals is a stand-in for Plato's Republic. And all Now, I could have looked for more manga about gals, but I didn't feel like it. I like Oshiete Galko chapter, but for this video, I wanted to look into something different. Manga set in Shibuya. Kachonpa is a manga about a gal from a family of police officers. She runs Shibuya and takes care of business whenever trouble comes up. Sounds familiar, right? But rest assured, this is very different from Super Gals. You see, the main character of this story actually wants to be a cop, and she's actively interested in a guy. Also, it's a josei manga, not a shoujo, but I don't really know how much that distinction means to people at all. I don't really know. Personally, the main reasons I like Kachonpa are:
Number 1.
The art style. Kachonpa has some of the best outfits this side of the Bleach chapter openings.
Number 2.
The random bits of Japan knowledge it drops on us, but I'm guessing that's mostly the translators doing the work. Kachonpa makes a lot of references. Like, for example, actor Abe Hiroshi's eye wrinkles are common knowledge enough to make jokes about.
Did you know
That there's something called a dokumo, which is basically an amateur model hired by a fashion magazine, usually a subscriber, to promote the brand. Shoujo magazines do a similar thing from what I've learned. According to Straight from the Heart by Jennifer S. Prue, shoujo magazines recruit mangaka from their readership by having contests and manga school type things where young girls can submit their works and develop their craft. Mihona Fuji herself is a quote-unquote graduate of the Ribbon Manga School, so I guess that community mindset is mirrored in Japanese fashion magazines.
Did you know
Gal circles. As with most gal-related things, these were more popular back in the day. Basically, gals would form groups that would meet in person and hold events and stuff. Some circles, like Angelique, were featured heavily in magazines and TV shows. Sometimes, like in the case of the gal circle Black Diamond, they would release music and perform in concerts. These days, there are still some gal circles around, but mostly tiny ones with a very small social media presence. Black Diamond is probably the biggest one that's still kicking. A lot of the circles are international now and post stuff like makeup and fashion tutorials on their Instagrams. Man, something about the way these gal circles operate on social media takes me back to the good old days.
Did you know
That Inaba Bento is a special box meal served at the Sapporo. Oh, and also, good luck finding the last few chapters. While Kachonpa may be missing its last few chapters, Gal Samurai is missing its all of the chapters. Its English chapters, I mean. Gal Samurai can be read in its entirety for free over here. So long as you can read Japanese, that is. My anime list says it's about a gal named Ron who hangs out in Shibuya. Whoa, I just blacked out there, I'm sorry. Hello Harajuku is another manga which I'm unable to find in English. According to my anime list, Harajuku, the most fashion district. If you want a manga set in Shibuya that's fully English translated, but which you probably won't remember in 2 weeks, look no further than MC Law. This one is about an 18-year-old lawyer who works in Shibuya. He has about 200 gangsters at his disposal, and deals with some serious subject matter involving suicide, sexual violence, drug abuse, and murder. Like many mid-manga, MC Law's ending is rushed as hell, probably due to cancellation. The first chapter sees our main character defeat our antagonist of the week by getting all of his friends to falsely accuse him of rape. The only way I could see anyone putting up with every single chapter of this bullshit is the fits. These guys are decked out in some of the coolest outfits you'll see this side of the— Wait, hold on, is that a rape hoodie? Okay, I'm moving on. One of the funniest manga I've read this year. It's only 7 pages per chapter, but it crams so much information into each page that it takes me like 5 minutes to get through. And at the end of each chapter, my brain starts producing smoke. It's about this kindergarten in Shibuya that gets this new teacher who's obsessed with this concept of the Shibuya feeling. This is one, however, that I wish came with translator's notes explaining some of the jokes, because I had to look some of this shit up. This manga will make you commit to an undue amount of research on Japanese culture. The fish are drawn better than the people in this one.
nigga?
Hello?
I had a whole section where I was going to talk about Shibuya to Aima show, but like, honestly, all I say is that it's boring as fuck, and I don't want to edit all that because like I'm bored right now, and I just want to finish the video. So just read Shibuyaku Mariyama show instead. It's like way better. The first thing I thought when I watched this movie was that it felt like a database of information assaulting my face. In a good way. The visuals combined with a voiceover and the fact that I have to read subtitles made it a real workout to get through. I was sweating by the end of it. But you gotta believe me when I say it's probably the best movie I've watched this year. I know I've said that about a lot of things. A billion other people could tell you about the themes and what this movie meant for Hideaki Anno's career and fucking Gainax and whatever, but all you need to know for this video is that the girls are ko-gals, I think, and this is set in Shibuya, which is hell. Yeah, I know I said that Shibuya is for everybody, but that was then. This is now. And despite the fact that Love and Pop looks amazing, Shibuya seems to be a nightmare for girls. I mentioned Enjo Kosai earlier, which is when old men pay high school girls to go out on dates, and sometimes even more. In Love and Pop, we see them more. The main character wants to buy a ring, so her and her friends do these jobs around the city. Thing is, the first episode of Super Gals tackles Enjo Kosai. In the Japanese dub, it's shortened to Enko. In English, it's shortened to...
Are you really going out on subsidies?
Super Gals has a much less nuanced take on the matter due to the fact that it's a manga for middle schoolers. In the story, Aya is the one doing subsidates, and the reason she's doing them is that she has no friends and just wants to have fun. She's not having fun because her parents are very controlling, and so on and so forth. Ron bitch slaps Aya and gives her an impassioned speech about being true to yourself, after which they become friends. This is more of a cautionary tale than a nuanced discussion, but I think the former may be more appropriate for a story directed at middle schoolers, showing that you can be a gal without doing things that make you uncomfortable. Love and Pop is not a movie intended for middle schoolers though, so it gets a lot more up close and uncomfortable with it. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the entirety of the movie is this stream of consciousness where it feels like you have someone else's brain hooked up to yours, and their memories are invading your mind. While I'm sure Shibuya can be glamorous, Love and Pop shows what a nightmare it can potentially be for girls. The movie's about a lot more than just that though. Bounce ko-gals fits neatly in the category of art that makes Shibuya look really cool but also makes it its own distinct circle of hell. This is another one about Enjo Kosai which gave me a little more insight into the whole thing. It seems that the girls who are super into it have a level of confidence where they perceive themselves as the ones with the power, but the confidence may be misplaced. The movie starts off with one of the main girls getting an abortion. This article talks about how media like Egg magazine pushed this narrative of female empowerment through sexual transgression. There was this slogan they had that went like, "Get wild, be sexy," that has kind of transcended the magazine and is still popular among gals even to this day. Now, I'm not here to trash Egg magazine. It seems like it was overall a pretty normal publication, and we can't blame a social phenomenon on one piece of media. What I am saying, rather, is that it's kind of convenient how this empowerment never threatened any kind of power structure, and if anything, benefited rich men more than anyone. In Straight from the Heart, Jennifer Prue talks about how during the economic collapse in the 90s in Japan, the media blamed girls for the collapse of society's morals. Sensationalist news segments aired about girls gone crazy for shallow things like designer clothing and makeup to the point where they were willing to sell their bodies over it. But relatively little attention or blame was put on the men who were quote-unquote buying those bodies. Not just ko-gals, but young girls in general get a bad rap for a lot of things that aren't even their fault. Their obsession with material goods, marketers and corporations get none of the blame, even though that's essentially the main goal. The collapse of society's morals? I don't even know how the fuck that works. Sociologist Miyadai Shinji argues that girls doing Enjo Kosai was more a form of rebellion against the super rigid social structures that boxed them into such a small number of valid identities. Enjo Kosai was more of a consequence than a determiner. At the end of the day, sexual liberation shouldn't be about doing the opposite of what's expected of you, but finding out what you want and doing that. You gotta let people have the space to be introspective and experimental without someone trying to profit off of it or pervert it. The only real empowerment happens when power is redistributed, and Enjo Kosai doesn't really redistribute anything meaningful. Back to Bounce ko-gals. In the movie, there's barely a single trustworthy guy. The only one I can remember off the top of my head is still a fucking weirdo. It's up to girls to stick together to survive in this hell world, and sometimes they can't even do that. Premise-wise, it's kinda similar to Love and Pop in that it revolves around high school girls in Shibuya, and one of the main characters wants something but can't quite afford it without navigating a hostile world. In this movie, a girl wants tickets to New York to study abroad, but on the whole, it's a very different movie. One with perhaps a more optimistic philosophy. Yasue Sato's character is my favorite. She has a condition called straight lineophobia, where she can't walk in straight lines. She's kind of like if a manic pixie dream girl was actually interesting and had interiority. This straight lineophobia probably symbolizes something about the path from youth to adulthood in this perilous world, where the paths laid out by the ones who came before us are no longer safe to walk on. But what do I know? Stylized 15uya, Shibuya 15 is actually very similar to The World Ends With You. But I am determined not to discuss that game. Shibuya 15 is a story that takes the Shibuya is actually hell concept to the next level by turning Shibuya into a purgatory where 15-year-old street youths battle for dominance. And also a poetic American called Peace can invade random people's bodies and kill the children whenever they get out of line. His arch nemesis is a girl called Emma who does tokusatsu transformations and has like a fucking sword arm. Also, there's a YouTube video from 2006 highlighting a scene where Yoshito Endo plays an extra. Yoshito Endo is not a big name actor, at least to my knowledge, with his most popular role being Zoisite in the live-action Sailor Moon series, so it's kinda crazy that one of the earliest videos in YouTube's existence was a fan tribute to one of his cameos. And there's a bunch of themes about like identity, adolescence, memory, gender, society, trauma, blah blah blah. That's for you to analyze. I'm only here to shine the light. It's up to you to make the shadow animals with your hands. Also, there's a manga, but it's like $26 on Amazon and it's untranslated, so I'm not fucking buying that shit. Okay, I was gonna talk about Girls' Life and Platonic Chain, but I forgot to download Girls' Life before it got taken down from Facebook because I watched it as a Facebook upload because that's like the only place you can watch that movie. But I recommend that movie. And for Platonic Chain, that shit needs some more research, and I don't want to fucking get into it right now, but like just watch that as well because it's like funny, but like I need to research it. We started off talking about Super Gals, and if I wasn't a complete hack, I would have ended it talking about Super Gals. But I simply had no idea when else I'd get to talk about any of that, about all that other. And I was just desperate to get it all off my chest. You see, I'm a cool guy. I watch things no one else watches, and I read things no one else reads. I'm the guy who puts you onto shit that you've never heard of. If you knew me in real life, I'd put In the Air by 11teen in the CD player of your car while you were driving me to the airport, and then somehow your CD player would break, and your radio too. So that album would be the only thing you would ever be able to listen to for the remainder of your time with that car. And you just got the car. That's the kind of guy I am. A great friend for making recommendations, and a terrible friend for driving to the airport. Bro, you didn't even answer the fucking question in the title!